Hey there, soccer freaks. This is ATL On Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United Football Club. So sit back, buckle up, enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. And if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, down here while you're watching, there's a little red button. Click that, right, Dave? We want some more viewership on YouTube since...
Holy cow, Mikey Dobbs. I know that we're supposed to talk about it all, but now we're showing it all. It's like Technicolor. Welcome to the future, ATL On Fire podcast listener.
We may not know how to talk about it all sometimes, but I got this camera switcher now and we look good. Look at this. Boom. How about that angle, Dave?
It's much more flattering, I thank you, to Mickey Dobbs.
All right. Well, we've got a good bit to talk about. We've got the Seattle game, which was, a week ago. Mm-hmm. We flew out, and I thought we had a good result with the tie there against a team that's the top of the table. I would have taken the tie all day long if you'd asked me.
Just so you're not concerned about me and Mikey Dobbs, he means the team flew out. He and I stayed here and watched on television.
Thank you for that clarity. And, you were at the game yesterday at the Benz.
Yes.
And some highs and lows there for sure. So
as a true fan, I was like, to heck with the Champions League final. I'm going to the game.
Yeah, we put the Champions League on the DVR and watched. I thought it was a good win by Chelsea, but it was sad to see De Bruyne get injured in that and not be able to compete. So
for the European Championships, right?
Yeah.
Oof. I think he's going to be back though.
Yeah.
Maybe only missed the opener, and then he'll play with a mask, which will be even more scary.
Oof.
He's a scary player to begin with, and De Bruyne in a mask is double scary.
And I guess, there was some news that broke yesterday that's interesting. I don't know if you were able to catch up much on it.
Yes, you should fill us in, Mikey Dobbs.
So there have been some sanctions evidently brought down on Inter Miami, David Beckham's team in Miami, basically in 2020, while Paul McDonough, Atlanta's current and no longer sporting manager, former sporting technical manager. What is it? Sporting manager? I don't know.
I think he's like the Tam and Gam manager.
Yeah, Tam and Gam. And so evidently he was screwing around with Tam and Gam, particularly the Tam, on how it was being allocated. And however, again, no one understands MLS. And
I know you don't believe this, dear podcast listener, but Mikey Dobbs actually does know the difference between Tam and Gam. Probably the only person in America.
Well, one
clearly Paul McDonough doesn't know.
Either that or he knows and is truly was pushing the limits. Obviously, MLS cracked down hard. It's really the first time, as I understand it, MLS has really done anything of this magnitude to basically over the next 2 years. I think they're taking away $2.2 million in basically monies that could be used for player salary and whatnot. And so
I have to say, credit to Bocanegra and Eels. They allowed him to do amazing things for us, then shipped him off when he got busted, and then brought him back right afterwards. So,
correct. But not only did we lose him, I would imagine that, it does worry you a little bit, right? That if there's any deeper investigation on how we've been managing the books of Atlanta.
You mean our 23 international slots that we bought might not be legit? Is that what you're implying, Mikey Dobbs?
I just hope that however he was moving things around in our spreadsheet, he was doing a better job than he was at Inter Miami.
Have you looked into it? Was it legal for us to buy an international slot?
I think so. I think as far as I know, you can buy as many.
It was very public,
slots.
So if it wasn't legal, you'd think they would have brought the hammer down already.
But he was banned until 2022 for any MLS position. And
that's not that long. It's 2021.
And he's apparently appealing the 22 year. So we'll see if that.
So it's going to be banned for 1 week, and then it's kind of like the MLS refereeing.
And now that we're off the topic of Tam and Gam, what kind of wine did you bring us?
But
this
we're
evening?
still looking good. Yeah. So I brought Uppercut which is a blend from Sonoma. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's blended with a few other grapes. So cheers again. Here's to being back in front of the fire.
Oh,
now that
nice.
you can see us.
That's got a lot of kind of fruity flavor. I like it.
Yeah, it's big. I like it.
So what do you want to do? You want to jump right to the Seattle game and start with that game, which
sure, our arch nemesis, Seattle,
and Rui Diaz did his thing right out of the gates on us.
For MLS, I must say, Atlanta United versus Seattle has to be considered a derby. Because you can't get any further apart. We need to coin an MLS term. So derby, for those of you out there who don't know, means there's two teams from the same city. What do you call it when there are two teams from, halfway around the globe? It only happens in MLS. We got to have a term for it.
Oh, that's a good one to come up with.
I'm gonna put you on that, Mikey Dobbs.
But I like how, since there's no real double MLS teams in any city in the U.S. because of the geography, they keep trying to pit everybody as the derby.
There's two New York teams. I mean,
that's true.
Fairness to you, Mikey Dobbs. The New York Red Bulls actually plays in New Jersey, which is not really New York.
I've been there.
But there are two LA teams, LAFC and LA Galaxy. So there you go.
So there's two true derbies in the MLS.
Correct.
And one's called the El Clasico right now. Is that?
No, it's the El Tráfico.
El Tráfico.
The Clasico is Barcelona, Real Madrid, and the one in LA because of all the traffic is El Tráfico. Very clever. I like that.
Yeah, and I don't know if the New York one has a nickname or not, but
I don't think so.
Now the Red Bull Arena is pretty sweet. I did get to go to the semifinals of Atlanta, who beat up on.
Apparently, there's some photographic evidence of you there.
That's good. Anytime there's Atlanta United confetti in New York turf, and you're one of the few people there, it's good stuff.
Well done.
And evidently the Hawks are beating up on the Knicks right now too. So hopefully they
the
can.
New York Knickerbockers, correct.
Yeah. But yeah, I got to get my head back in gear for the game two weeks ago.
Yeah, Rui Diaz.
Rui Diaz.
I cut you off. Sorry.
Was that like the 6th, 7th minute? I don't know. It was like in the first 10 minutes.
Pretty
right?
early, yeah.
Remind me. Do you recall the goal?
It's a corner kick, and it's interesting because the commentator said
Brooks Lennon.
It was a free header. That's not true. He was draped all. Brooks Lennon was draped all over Rui Diaz. But for those of you out there, again, the young podcast listeners out there, one of the things, this again is a bit my critique of American defending, right? In the penalty area, there is no such thing as marking, right? Because he proved it on that play. You can be as draped over him as much as possible, and they can still score. All you need to do is get 3 inches out in front of him, and it's a goal. So when you are defending in the penalty area, it is imperative to actually beat the guy to the ball and score or defend by getting it out rather than just trying to mark someone.
Right. So speed to the ball as it comes into a playable position.
Yeah, and
based on its arc.
Yeah, you can see Brooks Lennon on that play. He's trying to track Rui Diaz, and he's all over him. He's got 2 arms around his waist, basically. But, so you start by tracking the guy, but as the ball is in the air, you've got to see it and go get it.
Yeah. And, really, again, that was a poor moment of, just what you need to do and get gritty on the defensive set plays, which seems to be a vulnerability of Atlanta United so far this season on set plays. I feel like we're pretty vulnerable. I don't know if you're witnessing the same, but
is that true? What are the set plays we've given up?
A couple corners for sure at the beginning of the season that came flying through.
I don't feel like we've been particularly vulnerable. I'd have to look at stats, but and I don't actually, maybe I would disagree with you slightly in that, in fairness, I was pointing out that critique because that's just the important way, to think about it, right? But if you are drapes all over someone and you're fighting for the ball and they score anyway, sometimes you just have to tip your hat to them and be like, good goal. The way you prevent that is not to concede possession in your end, not to give up corner kicks, not to give up set pieces.
Yeah. And, overall though, I felt like the possession again was really strong by Atlanta. And possession in their side of the field, moving it around, not too laterally, but trying to create some chances, particularly against again a good team. Um,
It's awfully impressive to go on the road to Seattle. I mean, Seattle's undefeated at that point, and to go on the road and dominate possession like that in their stadium is awfully impressive.
Yeah, I'm looking at my scribbled notes here. So I do recall in the first half, Bello, again, a weakness of his. There was a ball that was played, deep and over the top, and as it came into the box, he kind of tried to almost back pass it to another player and just put it. He basically passed it right to the other team. When the pressure, and there was a million things he could have done, like kick it out of bounds or whatever. But again, it was that we've got to play possession out of the back, even when it's a bad idea.
Trying to get too cute.
Too cute. And that was just a moment we got completely lucky on. Again, an area where Bello needs to continue to develop.
But, the interesting thing is outside of the first 10 minutes when they had, the goal and maybe another chance, as the game went on, they did not have great chances at all.
They didn't.
And this is what I was saying, the last podcast. I think Atlanta United is potentially shaping up as a team that could be one of the better defensive sides we've seen in a while in MLS. And that's also without Alan Franco. For those of you out there who are like, hearing that Walks is great and he's defending whatever, there is zero chance that Alan Franco, as a 23-year-old player already capped for the Argentinian national team, came here not to be the starter. As soon as he is back healthy again, Walks is going to be on the bench.
And so looking at my notes here, I have no notes on Walks or Robinson or Guzan in the first half, which probably means they played pretty decent. No
news is good news.
I have a scribble that Sosa was 100%. He made one bad pass, and that was a probing pass forward.
Yeah.
And to your point, last podcast, is you'd actually rather see more of that from him.
Yeah, if he's never giving the ball away, then he's not, in my opinion, pushing hard enough.
Yeah, and is definitely the type of pass you want to try to make something happen on. So made note of that. Brooks Lennon, a couple of giveaways and not the best crosses in the first half. And I don't know, I just kind of made the observation, Brooks Lennon's style of play looks stiff sometimes. I don't know if you see the same thing.
He's definitely a player a typical American style who relies on his athleticism more than his creativity. That's for sure.
But it's almost like he just needs to take a breath a little bit and just relax. And I think a little bit more creativity will come out. But yeah, he's almost over reliant on that athleticism. But I think he's good enough to where I think he just needs to actually take some people on in a more nonchalant way than he does. I think you can almost see that he's stressed out a little bit the way he's trying to do it. I don't know if that's me just making that up or.
Yeah, I mean, there are two different types of defenders on the outside. There's some that are a little bit more creative types, and Bello has some real skill, particularly going forward. And there are others who just live and die by their motor and getting up and down the line. And he seems to be the latter type of fullback. But, there are been some phenomenal fullbacks who have gotten by on their motor, for example.
Yeah. And the player that I think probably was a little over his skis more than I've seen, you saw a little bit of this, I think, in the CCL game you mentioned, like a deer in headlights. I thought Eric Lopez definitely got his head in the wrong place in that game out of the gates with I forget the other player, but it was.
You mean the yellow card?
Well, he got a yellow card, and he could have been on the edge of getting a red, which is why he got taken out of the game because he was being a hothead for sure in that game. And
Hines is kind of player though.
Yeah, but not in a productive.
And a Mikey Dobbs kind of player, I would add.
I don't think he was being productive in that game. I think he was actually getting shut down. Now this last game.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean,
that's a different story. But
he
we're
was
talking about the Seattle
terrific.
game.
It's terrific at the bench, against Nashville, and has shown, I think, some real, potential.
Yeah, Heineman, not a lot to talk about in the first half. Again, probably was moving and creating a lot of space, but I didn't see a lot
What
of.
did you think of Joseph Martinez in that game? In our continued evaluation of his return.
He had a good strike according to my notes here.
Oh yeah, he had an absolute cannon.
Yeah, so yeah, he wasn't. I like to see that. Right, it was a pretty long range shot, but didn't go to. It fizzed over the top left of the
In
corner.
the second
right?
half, yeah, 60th minute or something like that.
No, I think this was first half, unless it was a different strike. I don't know. What do we got here? And yeah, and the fact that Heinze also got a yellow in the first half. I don't know what happened on that one, but he was obviously
surely not his last.
No. So that was the first half. Anything else in the first half that stands out to you, or in the game?
No, I mean, if you go back to the CONCACAF Champions League, where we conceded a goal and just panicked and everybody went forward, and then we just had a meltdown. I have to say, on the road in Seattle, conceding an early goal like that and not panicking and everybody sticking to the game plan was good to see.
Yeah, and as I flip my notes here, I have like kind of three headlines. I felt like there was.
I'm impressed. Look at all you taking notes.
I know. I was sitting here on the couch with some broken ribs, so I had nothing better to do.
Yikes.
I felt like, there's a lack of, urgency, though, when I felt like we actually did have control of the game, and there's the moment to kind of smell blood and go after the game, and I still feel like we're missing that type of commitment to smell the blood, and I felt like we had Seattle on their back foot for a moment in that game, and I think that's why I have the note here. I felt like we were bad on set pieces, and we didn't play enough, like, I guess what you call like any sort of counterattacking a soccer where, the old days of Almiron just moving the ball quickly from the back to the front. You're just not seeing that at all. And I'm not saying we have to be a counterattacking team, but there are moments when you got to get the damn ball up fast to Joseph Martinez, and we no longer do that. And that's killing me. So we're not smelling blood. We're bad on set pieces, and there's no sense of urgency type of counterattacking soccer at all in our DNA right now. I don't know if that's fair or not, but I just don't see that.
Well, I think, as I pointed out last time, I don't think until Barco is back playing every match and you have him and Moreno both in the attack, and until Joseph Martinez is a lot closer to the Joseph Martinez of old, we're not going to have a third gear yet. The team has enough possession in the final third to score 1-2 goals a game. It's not a boring side, but the third gear that gets you the third goal and occasionally the breakout, 5-goal extravaganza, it requires those players being healthy.
And by bad on set pieces, not only do I mean like defending the corner kick, which we got scored on, our free kicks have been bad. A lot of them are just not even on frame. And just, some opportunities that I think were definitely lost on some set pieces that.
Well, Barco looked really good early on free kicks. And then, of course, when he was out, we looked just hopeless on free kicks. Martinez, Brooks Lennon. I think those are the guys who have taken it. But, and as you pointed out last year, for those who are aficionados of the podcast, having two players stand over a free kick is really detrimental. It really throws the guy who's going to take it is a little unfocused by it, and it's funny because you had that insight, and I too have had that insight. It's something that I think is nuts, and I would never let my team do as a coach. I agree with you 100%. There's a little bit of focus. The player doesn't take quite as long a run up. The player doesn't balance the ball quite as well. The player's looking at the other guy, and it almost inevitably causes you to just sky a terrible one.
It does. It really does. Thanks for bringing that up again, because was that in the Seattle game where that was happening? I think it was actually
both games.
I think it was both games, but it was definitely in the Nashville game when Barco was in the game, and Barco did not end up taking that.
Yeah, he came on. I thought, maybe they brought him on and he was going to take the free kick, first 20
moment.
seconds.
Yeah.
But
and he should have.
Yeah.
And he should have told the other guy to get the hell off the ball. Who was it? Mulroney that took it?
It wasn't Mulroney. I thought it was Martinez. I think it was Martinez.
I don't know. I don't think it was, but
Oh.
maybe. You think maybe you might be right.
Could have been Brooks Lennon. Maybe it was Brooks Lennon.
Back to the Seattle game. Mulroney, I think, came on in the second half. Maybe am I wrong on that? Yeah, he must have come in for.
Halftime, I think.
He must come on for Eric Lopez, and I thought he played quite well.
It's interesting. We had a discussion about, Mulroney with his speed was getting by people and getting into the corner, but then he can't deliver a cross with his right foot. He's left-footed, so he was just cutting it back and just ruining the whole momentum. And in the middle of the game, a couple games ago, Hines moved him from right midfield where he could cut inside and shoot to left midfield where it was on his natural left foot for the cross. And we had this conversation about, was that just a moment or was that an actual move? And the answer is it was an actual coaching move by Heinze because he's never gone back out on the right.
Yeah.
Which I think is brilliant, right? Because Heinze is now, people say, oh, Heinze loves a cut-in player or whatever. And here's an example of a coach who is, obviously prefers that. That's what he started with. That's what he's done in the past. But he's not just devoted to it to the point where he's like, well, that's not working. Let's switch it.
Yeah. And, yeah, I thought he brought a good energy, Mulroney, when he came in. And
do you think that DeBoer would ever switch something that he thought was not going right?
No.
He was just so, emphatic about his, he knew which way it was supposed to go.
Yeah. I don't know. My notes aren't making any sense anymore. So
we've reached the end of Mikey Dobbs' notes. Okay, now we're winging it.
We're winging it. But, again, Guzan, very solid in the game. I felt like the two center backs played well. And Sosa, again, dynamite in that game.
Guzan wasn't great in the Nashville game. He was a couple of times he was a little slow. There was one time, was it first half? Yeah, first half where he started to come for a ball and both Walks and Miles Robinson stopped because they just, were going to get out of his way. And then he had second thought and didn't come for the ball. And the Nashville player came right through. Like,
Yeah, I remember that. But he it turned out to be nada.
Yep.
But yeah, and then at the end of the game, I guess it was Miles, correct, in the Seattle game, put a beautiful ball over the top with just the right flight on it that allowed Lennon, with his pace, to streak up the corner and cut into the 18 and just be able to put a cross back across the box, but also got fouled on that play.
Yep.
I think certainly a little lucky, but it was definitely a foul. I thought, in the
well, one of the things that happened on that play, and it also happened for the goal in Nashville, the one where Bello crossed it to Lopez, and it is something that I have talked about on the podcast. In all of those cases, the other team had the ball, like in the Seattle case. The other team had the ball. They were playing it forward. Miles Robinson stepped forward, wins the ball, right, at midfield, is able to take, 5 yards of space and then plays that ball to an exploding Brooks Lennon. And I don't think you can underestimate it. In the case of in the Nashville game, it's Marcelino Moreno, but it was started from Walk stepping up, winning the ball at midfield, getting a poke in. It went right to Moreno. And, as you were talking about how we're not fast enough in transition, that's when we are. When those guys have won it in midfield, boom, one pass, and Moreno got to run 30 yards with nobody in the way,
right.
And then spring Bello for a beautiful cross to Lopez. And so my point being that the Heinze system, the way it works in a speed, transition way, is when those guys are up challenging and winning the ball at midfield, boom, one pass, and now somebody gets to run.
Yeah. So then that led to, obviously, a PK. a little nervous watching Joseph come up to take it because he
skip and a
you
jump.
know he loves his hop, skips, and jumps, and he didn't let us down.
Buried it. I mean, wasn't even close.
Buried it, and
goalkeeper moving one way, almost upper 90 the other way. It doesn't get any more beautiful than that.
Yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised when that hit the back of the net. Keeper went the wrong way, and
Ye of little faith. It's almost like you remember the playoffs with De Boer when we could have gone to the final. Oh no, I don't want to talk about it.
And and that was that. And a 1-1 tie against Seattle. I think I took a Twitter poll on ATL on Fire and said, hey, would it be good if we came away with a draw, yes or no?
Dear podcast listeners, do participate in the Twitter polls.
Yes.
They're very exciting.
At ATL on Fire. So, yeah, I think 90% of the pollers, if my memory serves, at least 85, I think, agreed when it was all done that leaving there with a draw would be a good thing. And
well, yeah, I mean, as we talked about, going on the road in MLS is a losing proposition. Going halfway across the world to Seattle, we still got to come up with a name for that, is even more of a losing proposition against, a terrific side, defending runner-up, and an undefeated team. Yeah, I'll take that. 100 times.
I agree.
That's a long way of saying, yeah, I agree with the Twitter poll.
Yeah, particularly in that game, I don't think Alan Franco, Jurgen Damm, nor Barca were available. So we're definitely missing some depth.
And by the way, I have to credit our Twitter feed, Mikey Dobbs, for sufficiently trolling the Atlanta United organization and getting them to actually say something about Barco and Franco leading into this game.
You're welcome.
Cheers to you, Mikey Dobbs.
Thank you.
Only Mikey Dobbs can troll enough to get them to say something.
And they only said something like 24 hours before.
Yeah, 24 hours. They might be available.
Yeah.
Way to give an injury update, right? They might be available.
I don't get it. I do not get it. And anything else on the Seattle game you want to touch on? I mean, again, thought it was a good draw. I'd take that. Take that point any day.
Yeah, well done.
And you got to go to the Nashville game.
Correct.
Yesterday, which was a 3:30 start on a beautiful Atlanta day.
It was absolutely gorgeous. The roof was open, and when that roof works, it's stunning. Mercedes-Benz is a thing to behold.
While I was doing some barbecue, watching the game outside on a TV, it reminds me we need to get back to doing some tailgating and getting your grill going outside the Mercedes.
Yeah, dear podcast listeners, Atlanta United threw us a curveball in our section. They gave us free food and free drinks, and it's made us conflicted about tailgating because we normally tailgate. So maybe you should take a poll whether or not we should A, tailgate, B, just eat the food and drink inside our free section, or C, do both.
Do both. I've already jumped because we at least got to do it once and do a barbecue, right? And
look out, world.
Early. Yeah. So that game, certainly for 75 minutes.
Are you gonna switch the view for our YouTube? Whoa!
How about that?
There we are once again in Technicolor. It's like the Wizard of Oz.
Those are my notes on the Seattle game. But since I was barbecuing and just
it's like behind the curtain, you can see the notes on the floor. That's why he's cheating.
Watching the CCL game in between the Atlanta United game. Mm-hmm. Just had fun watching the game.
You mean the real CCL, not the CONCACAF?
Yeah, the real one. The really isn't one.
Sorry, CONCACAF.
So I'm gonna let you take us through the Atlanta Nashville game since you were there, right? So
holy crow, role reversal.
Yeah, well, you got the you
panicked.
You had the view from the 50-yard line.
So beautiful seats.
I had a view from a TV outside with a glare on it, and a broadcast from Bailey Sports that was glitchy and had a beautiful kind of glare on the field from the dome being open You know how it was just really kind of hard to see the ball and what was going on.
It's actually interesting, when the roof is open in an afternoon game, the sun started out a little over halfway, and Brad Guzan was looking into the sun in the first half. And then in the second half, the Nashville keeper was looking into the sun all the way up to about maybe 10 minutes to go, and then it went into completely shade.
So walk us through the game. What did you think of the let's just start with the first half.
Well, I mean, you can't dominate more overall than we did. We had possession, although I think some of the shot stats were not that. I didn't look at the expected goals, but overall, I would say you have to be happy. We were in control of the game. We scored 2 good goals for a change. Yep. Particularly the team goal in the second. I mean, so the first goal
was just a big deep ball right down the center.
Yeah, Moreno, it was a long ball down the center to Moreno. Who made the ball?
Moreno got it and did a really nice job of it kind of came over his right shoulder.
Really good settle.
And then settled it to his left, which kind of cut behind another defender.
The Nashville keeper looked like
it was kind of screening his own keeper, right? And so all he did was just...
He looked like he was going to fall over his own feet, the Nashville keeper.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. But who made the pass?
I didn't see who made the pass.
It came from the right side.
Yeah.
Was it Miles Robinson also?
I don't know.
I knew, but
we're going to have to go back and look at that. But yeah, whoever it was, kudos. Great ball. And yeah, a lot of credit to Moreno for being composed on it. And it wasn't the prettiest goal you're going to see.
I feel like it was Brooks Lennon.
Okay.
I feel like it was Brooks Lennon.
That feels like it's
it was from the right side, and I think it was Brooks Lennon because I don't think. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and Moreno didn't.
It was either Lennon or Robinson.
He didn't get a lot on his shot, but it was enough. And
yeah, it was, going one way and shooting back the other way. It's a misdirect, and that's enough.
Went under, kind of under the feet of the defender, and the keeper at that point was screened, and went right by him. So, and also, it was another great goal from Moreno to have the fans kind of get behind him.
It was a great run. I mean, you love to see a guy like Moreno running from midfield beyond the last defender. I mean, when you do that and you're probing, and then that's fantastic.
So that was his high point in the game. I think I absolutely know his low point. Do you?
His low point?
Oh, yeah. The simulation was ugly. I know you may have not gotten to see the...
Oh, yeah.
So,
even live, I could say people were so mad in a section. They're like, oh, it's giving a yellow card. It's totally inappropriate. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was a dive.
Yeah. Oh, it was 110% a dive. And
even from the upper row where our beautiful sideline seats are, I could tell that was a dive.
Oh, yeah. That was worth the break there. Thank you.
Wine break.
But, I think, that was a
time for our commercial sponsor.
That is an area that Moreno, he's got to figure out how to be a little stronger in the MLS. And that's a part of his game. He needs.
Yeah, I think he's figuring it out, like you said before. Getting used to the league.
Yeah, but that's not the way you do it by doing a full-on knee diver.
In fairness, Barco was super flop, in his first several appearances, and he's lost that.
Yeah. If we ever see him, I mean.
Yeah, if he's still alive. He did play in the second half, though.
Yeah.
So clearly he is still alive. That was one of the questions we had in the last podcast. Is Barco still alive? The answer is yes, Mikey Dowds. He's still alive.
I know. I think he's maybe going to go in this
slightly alive
summer transfer window.
I'm only mostly dead.
That's my theory. Only mostly dead.
So and in the second half, it seemed like we were in control the entire way. We scored a beautiful goal again that we've touched on before. Interception by Walks. Marcelino Moreno running at the defender. Really nice ball out to Bello. Beautiful run by Eric Lopez. Great finish. Again, the keeper at 6s and 7s. The keeper was like going for the ball and was like, oh, somebody ran in front of me. I was not impressed with the Nashville goalkeeper. But great goal. And I don't know. So Eric Lopez was fed through in the second half by Bello, and he totally blew the breakaway. And I kind of assumed he was offsides, but in live, we never saw a flag. Do you know? Did they do VAR on TV? Was he offside?
I don't recall.
I tried to check it on the highlights after, and they didn't say anything about offside. So my impression at the stadium, my impression was, well, he blew it, but he kind of knew he was offside. So, there's always that thing. But in retrospect, I think he just blew it. I mean, he had a straight out breakaway.
Yeah.
I mean, so great run, great ball by Bello, slipped in a beautiful ball. And if it was onside, then the timing was beautiful.
Yeah.
But you got to bury that game at 3-0. As far as the last 10 minutes, I know people are going to be super critical, and it felt like, being kicked in a bad spot.
What happened? Like, I was pretty loose, having some Coronas, watching the game, and wasn't going to get overly upset. And so I didn't really try to break it down. Particularly in these defensive moments where there's lapses, you're really good at kind of identifying who or whom was a part of the breakdown. Was it at midfield where it really went wrong, or was it the back line when it came in?
To be honest, I don't think that either goal was too much of a lapse, and I didn't think so live, and I didn't think so even when I went back and watched the replay on the highlights. The first goal, maybe you say, okay, you let him get in the penalty area a little bit easy, and he wasn't tightly marked, but he cuts back, a nice cut back, and that ball goes right through Sosa's legs, which is a little bit unlucky. And then the East, I actually turned to our good friend Quentin right then, and I said, which he mercilessly teased me about later. I said, look, don't worry about it. We're still in control of this game. No way they're coming back.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a few minutes later, they score again. The second goal was just a shambolic comedy. I mean, it's a longer shot. It deflects sideways off of Miles Robinson and just falls right to the guy at the 6-yard box. I mean, yeah, maybe you could say that we should have been, covering over there, but I just think sometimes you have to be like, luck is just not on our side today. And we felt, sometimes you don't feel in control. We felt totally in control.
Yeah, up until the end there, and then we could have lost it too. There was another moment after that second goal that I think they could have put a third in. I don't remember the details.
But we had another couple of chances to, to bury it, and then maybe even to get to 3-1. Like, I don't know. I have a hard time being too critical. I think we have to keep taking a deep breath because I like the way we played. I enjoyed the game. I thought we were the better team. We deserved to win. It's actually interesting that, our schedule thus far, if you look at the top of the table, the teams that are at the top of the table, we've played most of them, right? We've had a pretty tough schedule. And actually, here's something we can talk about. I'm going to ask your opinion, and it might lead to an impromptu rant.
All right.
So in most leagues, the scheduling is pretty straightforward. In terms of, the games are Saturday, Sunday. They're starting to branch out a little bit. But MLS, the games are really, really scattered. Last week we had a debate about where Atlanta United was in the table, and dear podcast listeners, we were both right because I had looked at it, And then the live table, as we were doing the podcast, was changing because there's games at all kinds of crazy days and hours.
Right.
So how do you feel about games at crazy hours and days?
Well, you certainly shouldn't schedule them over the CCL championship game.
Fair.
That's just a terrible scheduling decision. I don't know who we blame on that. Who is at fault on that? How do you make that?
MLS makes the decision, so.
Arthur Blank's got enough money to have Paul McDonough do something shady, right? Like, come on. I mean, if Paul McDonough can get 4 DPs at Inter Miami, he can't make sure we don't have a game scheduled over the CCL championship final? Come on.
I mean, so right now we're 2-4-1. The commentators said, and I believe it's the case, that Heinz's record thus far is the best opening record of any of the coaches, including Tata. Now, Tata, in fairness, it was the very first season.
Yeah.
So, there's the thing, right? But if you look at the table, right, we've played New England is the top. We've played Orlando is third. We've played Montreal is fifth. We've played Nashville as seventh. It's been it's a pretty, and we played, of course, Seattle is first in the West. We've played, I think, a fairly difficult schedule. We've only had one. We played Inter Miami, who's shambolic, and we could have been. But we are currently in eighth, and you say, okay, that's not that great, but we're 2-4-1. We're in eighth with 10 points, and we're one game in hand away from being in second. So I think right now, if you are an Atlanta United fan, as the team is settling under a new coach, particularly if you think about what we were doing last year, you got to be happy with even getting some draws, because my guess is those draws are about to turn to wins as we transition from first third to middle third, or even first half to second half of the schedule.
Have you heard any updates on Ronald Hernandez?
I believe he was on the bench again.
So he was on the roster.
Yes, he has appeared on the bench twice, and what I have heard is that because he came from, so he went to Scotland in this crazy thing. So he's Venezuelan. He's on the Venezuelan national team. He went to Scotland, and right before COVID hit, and because COVID hit, he never did anything there. He didn't even train, right? Nothing. Right. And so he basically, it turns out that he had like 8 months where he wasn't playing soccer. So that makes me believe that he's just, a couple of months from getting up to speed. And I was originally thinking maybe Brooks Lennon won the job. I'm not so sure of that. And, in fairness to Brooks Lennon, I'm not really sure whether Heinz actually sees him as a right back or not. He might see him as a right winger, along with Jürgen Damm. You might have Hernandez and Lennon playing.
That would be fantastic. Because I think, Lennon certainly can be, I could see the combination of even tactically using one or the other, to just have a little change of speed, bring in maybe Jürgen Damm, later on in the game to,
Yeah, it's nice to have two quality wingers. Yeah, for sure.
So who we got next here? We're looking at the schedule here on the screen. We're up against Philadelphia on June 20th. Is that right?
Yeah, we owe those boys.
We do. And so what's the name of the field up in?
It can't be the next game though. Oh.
Google's been so wrong with the schedules here. So
do we really have a break from the? I mean, today is the 30th.
No,
we can't have 20 days before the next game.
No,
that's not right.
It's not.
That's shambolic.
It's the Google. It's going wrong. All right, find something to talk about. I'll find the schedule.
Here we are. We're going to talk about it all. Now we're talking about Google and their lack of ability to have the MLS schedule. Of course, it's going to turn out we're wrong, and it is actually the next game. It could be an international break. Could it be an international break for that long?
I don't think so.
Oh my goodness, that would be crazy. Anyway, it's an interesting rant. How do you feel about the fact that teams don't really always play on the same day like a normal, weekend? I mean, obviously, in some of the leagues in Europe, there are things that get in the way, Champions League, cup matches if you go later, and then that throws it off. But pretty typically, they're playing once a week. They play Saturday or Sunday, and, it's pretty standard. The MLS schedule is much more variable. You'll have the occasional Tuesday game or whatever.
I don't know. I like weekend games personally, but I don't know. It seems like a more sports. You see the NFL doing that too. I mean, I think they're trying to spread it out into the middle of the week. So
obviously, TV is driving that, and right. As you pointed out, the TV. So is Bally's, is that the same as the fitness center?
I don't.
Where people work out? Is that what we're supposed to be excited about?
I don't know.
Every time I see it, I feel like it's the same logo.
It does kind of look like it, but I'm not a fitness junkie, so I don't even know what
I have a gym in my house, so I don't have to go out of the house. So Bally's is shambolic. It's still Fox.
Okay.
It's just branded like they sold the naming rights to the channel. Right? It's like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They sold the naming rights.
Right.
So I think it's Fox, but it's the Bally's channel now. And so I'm thinking it might be the fitness.
I thought it was...
but I could be wrong. It could be wrong.
I thought it was the Sinclair group before. Am I wrong on that?
I don't know.
I think it was the
This is much more your
But yeah, maybe it's just a rebranding of the same crap.
But anyway, it makes it hard to follow the table because the moment you look at it, the live table is constantly switching. You can't. So on in a standard European league, at the end of the weekend, you can look at the table and see where your team is, and that's not really true in MLS. It's all over the place.
What am I doing wrong with finding the schedule here?
I don't know. You're supposed to be an internet guru. If we're gonna be on YouTube, then we got to do better with the internet.
I know. Ooh, this is the Nashville stats. Look at that.
Ta-da. So you're on the MLS site, so the schedule, maybe at the top it should be. Did you try that already?
Yeah.
I was focused, unlike some people.
I know, I've lost my focus.
So if you go to all clubs and you select...
It doesn't give a club option there, yeah.
It really doesn't have it? Oh, my goodness.
Terrible. So maybe that's Google's problem.
It's time for trivia. Okay, on what website can you not click the Atlanta United schedule?
There's no way it's going to be a month before the next Atlanta United
I'll give you
game.
3 choices. MLS.com, AtlantaUnited.com, ATL on Fire.
So who are we going to get as our next sporting director? Do we need one? We need somebody to understand the TAM and the GAM, right? So
I think Bocanegra knows enough about TAM and GAM now. We might be able to get away with it.
So after all this, is Bocanegra going to get a raise since he's got to do 2 jobs?
He's doubling up, yeah. He's TAM and GAM. No.
At what point do we get rid of this Mickey Mouse stuff, though? Like, it's not that it's Mickey Mouse because it's.
Yeah, I mean, Inter Miami got screwed, right? Because they lost all of their allocation money, right?
Yeah.
Like a ton of it, which means they can't do anything with their roster. It's really restrictive.
All the people David Beckham has been talking to on the phone, he no longer can deliver on bringing them to the club.
Poor Phil Neville.
Yeah.
Now he's there, and he can't even get any good players. Oof.
What do you think about that coaching assignment?
I can't imagine that Phil Neville really makes it work. Is as good as Phil Neville, he was okay with the women's English team and got them to a semifinal, but some people say, "Oh, it's women's whatever." I don't agree with that at all. I think coaching women, coaching men, no big deal, no difference. But it is very different coaching an international team, a national team versus coaching a club team.
Yeah.
And I think moving, going to an international team first and then trying to switch to a club, that's a big assignment. Usually, as we talk about when you're looking for coaches, we've talked about, I always say you want to have someone with some kind of record with some team. And obviously he has a record, but not a club record. And I think that's very different.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think it's just a matter of having a winning track record. Like, to me, that's the biggest.
But how do you feel about coaching internationally versus coaching a club?
Well, coaching a club is a much harder job, right? Because there's just a lot more to deal with in terms of schedule and travel and all that comes with it. So I think that's the better barometer. I feel like there's so much more that goes into almost a bit of the luck of international play sometimes on how the culture of the team just happens to come together.
It's also the players you have, get to work with, right? You know, club, you can recruit a squad, you can build a squad. International, you're dealt with whoever you got who's from your country.
And I think well, that's why international play sometimes, like the culture of the team and the argument you and I always have. I think maybe more so in international, the coach plays maybe a little bit less of a role to some degree because the players just have to want it and they have to have a good energy amongst each other, whether that's contentious. Because, I mean, a good culture could be like they may not love each other that much, but they almost want to go out there and prove something,
right,
even though they don't like each other, or they really absolutely get along and just, it's a really good team energy. So it could be either or. But if you don't have that, doesn't matter what you're, that's as a coach, if you're dealt a bad energy as far as like these pieces that are coming together from a lot of different clubs, then you almost have no hope.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
What else, Atlanta United wise, do we have to talk about?
We wore the new jerseys.
Did you buy a new jersey?
No. Did you like the blue jerseys?
I did like. The blue jerseys were sweet.
Blue jerseys, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they looked great on TV. Actually,
really?
Yeah. Well,
I thought they looked terrible.
Did you? I've always been. I'm a sucker for like a light blue.
Oh yeah.
On a jersey. So I thought it looked good. Yeah.
I have to say, since my wife listens to the podcast, Carolina blue looks good on anybody. But
yes, that's what I meant. Carolina blue looked good. It wasn't very, Atlanta United, so I don't really understand the color scheme of it.
No, and it's not that exciting a jersey. It was kind of with little splotches of.
I know, but that's what Carolina blue gets you. Just, you look cool.
All right. All right.
Yeah. So we don't even know who we're playing next. We're terrible podcasters.
What? That can't be true.
What does your Apple device tell us?
All right,
since the Google's not helping us out.
Okay. Stuff you have to put down the wine in order to Google the schedule. So,
and as you're looking that up, what did you think? What did you think of Joseph Martinez live in that Nashville game?
Yes.
We didn't really talk about him in that game.
I actually thought that for the first time, Joseph Martinez showed more than just, one or two flashes of being back. He looked more confident. A couple of times he turned quickly. A couple of times he went at players in the box.
So there was that one where he went at some players in the box and he tried to cut it back.
Yeah, and he lost the ball.
But then it came back, and I think it was maybe Lopez. It was Eric Lopez who hit a really nice shot. It was going far post.
And God, what a save that was.
And the keeper made a great save on it. But that was, again.
It's funny, I was killing the Nashville goalkeeper because he was shambolic on the 2 goals. But
yeah, that was a great
what
save.
a save that was.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? How did that not go in?
But yeah, it was good to see Joseph. I would have rather seen him almost just rip a shot. But, he did try, his little cutback. And that's where you show the energy in the legs just doesn't have that crispness yet to pull that move off. But still create an opportunity for Lopez to, put in a great shot and make the keeper make a save.
We have to apologize to Google.
Google got it right.
Google's always right.
Damn it, you Google.
How did we go against Google? Yeah, the official Atlanta United website, June 20th is the next thing. It is an international break, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Google 1, ATL on fire 0.
All right,
it's fine. We We'll win the next one, right, Mikey Dobbs?
Yeah.
Google. We have to find something that Google is wrong.
Don't always trust Google. Trust me.
What?
Yeah. What do you think of Joseph's pink hair?
Bubblegum, awesome. I mean, I'm not as big a fan as the gray, which I thought was epic. I mean, how is a guy on top of your game scoring goals, for fun, and he's sporting the gray hair? So that was my favorite. But the pink hair, awesome. My wife, with all the new players, was saying, at the stadium, she's like, oh, it's hard to pick out whatever. I'm like, there's one player it's easy to pick out. And she's like, oh, yeah. Justin Martinez. Yeah, I love it. I'm a big fan.
I don't know about it. If it was like breast cancer month or something like that, I'd be all about it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I'd rather see him. I don't know.
Well, nobody can look as good as you in your beautiful Atlanta United warm-up top.
This is because Heinze wore this the first game, and I'm going to get me one of those.
You should.
He's got the sweatpants, and I don't have that part of it.
Okay.
So that's the next big buy. So
nice.
So we have a month off before our next game.
Yeah, international break. Apparently.
So I guess I'm gonna have to.
Which makes sense because we know there's always internationals, but
I'm gonna have to do a ATL cooking with ATL on Fire episode. Then
if you haven't, dear podcast listeners, if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel and watched the cooking segments, you're missing out because there's some delicious things going on the ATL on Fire YouTube channel.
So yeah, the last one I did a lobster roll, which I have again never done. Took all of 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Basically, you're warming butter if you do the prepared lobster from somewhere like DeKalb Farmers Market.
Okay.
But absolutely fabulous. So we're playing Philly next, and maybe I do like Philly cheesesteaks.
Awesome. We're in
something like that.
Yeah, I mean we owe those, boys, because our epic meltdown in the CONCACAF Champions League. We owe Philadelphia.
Maybe I'll put some peppers in my cheesecake just to be controversial, because that's not like the traditional thing that really pisses a lot of people off when you put peppers in there.
Okay,
we're gonna do that.
Dropping some knowledge here in the podcast.
Jim Curtin, and I'll spell his name wrong on purpose too in my notes. So.
As in like the curtains over the windows. Yeah. Okay.
But so who's still left in the CCL championships for the CONCACAF CCL? That is, what teams are left? Where are we in that tournament? Are there any MLS teams still in it?
The MLS got obliterated, wiped out.
So it's all.
I want to say there's one left, but I'm not absolutely sure. I feel like there's.
But all the MLS teams are cooked.
Oh God, we got the Mexican clubs just obliterated. I mean, LA United lost to Philadelphia, but we didn't do too well. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
American soccer is, alive and kicking, except for Tata is the Mexico coach, and the Champions League. They're absolutely annihilating us. So other than that, it's good.
Watching the U.S. Switzerland game today wasn't a lot of hope either. So
right.
When you go back and watch that on DVR, I don't think you're going to.
Somebody has to learn to defend, apparently.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
That's it. One month off. We got a summer break.
We talked about it all. New YouTube channel, the sporty clips that we have now. Yeah.
Let's see if we can go to the final widescreen here. See if the camera's still on.
Still on.
All right.
Technicolor dream.
Well,
hit the subscribe button somewhere.
Hold on. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed.
I look like I'm bringing in a plane.
Subscribe, people.
Subscribe.
More information down here on the ticker.
There we go. I got it.
We didn't know a lot about.
Tell your friends to subscribe. Oh, there is one more thing.
Yeah?
Yeah. Apparently, the ATL on Fire podcast moved up in the Atlanta United podcast rankings.
Oh.
Right? Aren't we like 6 or 5 now?
I think we're pushing the top 5. I mean,
let's go. Come on, people. Hit the subscribe button.
Indeed. Tell
We're
a friend.
going for the top 5.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
See ya.